does the brain remember all of our bad shots so much more than our good shots?
That's a great question. That's such a good question. And by the way, it's not just shots. So can I do a quick exercise with you?
Absolutely.
Okay. So don't write this down. Just kind of hear me. All right. So I'm going to give you some numbers, right? And I only want you to think about the numbers I'm giving you. Got it? Okay. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. What are you thinking of?
Why'd you skip 5?
Why'd I skip 5? Right. So just think about that. Here I was, just gave you a bunch of innocuous, non-threatening, not judgmental, just numbers, simple instructions, and your brain still went for what's missing. Our brain is designed to do that. So up until about 5 generations ago, most human beings did not travel more than 50 miles from where they were born. So same threats. They didn't live past the age of about 40-ish. So survival was a big deal. 300-400 years ago, most of us died at birth or shortly after birth. Right? So 200 years ago, our life expectancy was in the low 30s. Like we just didn't live long enough. So survival was a big deal for us. We had to remember the stuff that threatens us. Now today, in those days, it was a fire or a disease or, some,
animal
or animal. Yeah. But today in the brain, it's a missed putt. It's, a shot that you shanked or something like that.
So so that's where I always get confused with this point is like, wouldn't you want to forget that because that did trigger those responses that you don't want again? Or is it that it's your brain's like, hey, we got to be on high alert for those because we don't want that to happen again?
Yeah. So all trauma, bad shots are like micro trauma, and micro trauma leads to PTSD.
Some of them are macro trauma too.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So the brain is just doing its job. And I don't know that we can rewire, 3-4 billion years of sort of design.
Yeah.
And so I think that the better answer is, can I just recognize, I'm over this shot, and now my brain is thinking about something yellow or red. So I just did a session earlier today, actually, and I told, these golfers, I said, hey, after a tournament round, so you've played in not even a tournament round, a competitive round, and you have another round the next day or the day after, like one of the last things that you should do before you go to bed, now hear me out here, because some people want to throw stuff at me when I say this, is I actually want you to think about the worst shot of the day.
Okay.
Like, let's say that you just played 18 holes, and let's say that you shot even par, but on hole number 7, which is a par 3 over water, you duffed it and it went into the water. It was embarrassing. You made double bogey.
Okay? I just did that about 2 weeks ago. So, yep, fresh in my memory. Yep.
Right. So that night, before you go to bed, I actually want you to think about it, but not by itself. I want you to think, and hear me out. I want you to think about it and say, what really happened over that shot? Did I have a good target in my head? If I was distracted, what was I distracted by? Okay, what is the adjustment I should have made? Okay, and then go to bed. Now, most psychologists will say that's the worst thing you can do. Why would you conjure up a negative memory? And let me give you the best argument possible. Your brain's already going to do that. And you know when it's going to do it? Tomorrow when you're on the 7th tee box. Now, is that the time? Is that the time that you want to be processing that? So do you know
that makes so much sense.
Do you know the number of tour guys that I work with that over 4 rounds of golf, they will have a bad score on the same hole every day?
Yeah.
Right? Like on one hole out of 18, they'll be like 4 over. And the rest of the holes, they're like 12 under.
I played a casual round yesterday on a course that I'm like, God, I always suck on this hole. Like, no matter what. Yeah. So I understand. Yeah, exactly.
The first time that your brain is processing that trauma is when you're in the tee box again.
But the problem is most of us try and bury those bad shots in And so then they're going to come back out, when in reality, you should just own it. Be like, what happened? Diagnose it. So that way it's not going to come back at you when you really don't want it.
Yes. There's no such thing.
Oh, that's huge.
There's no such thing as bearing your thoughts. That's a cliche. That's as bad of a cliche as don't think about it.
Right.
I mean, there's no such thing as that, right? Your brain is constantly thinking.